Alrighty, we're a couple minutes past the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the final Flow February community group meeting. This is the last one of the Flow February series. Hopefully you've joined the ride along for the last 3 weeks. If you haven't, the recordings, you can access them through the community group as well as the YouTube page. So firstly, I want to start off, big welcome, good afternoon to everybody joining and everyone still coming in. My name is Andrew Fragias. I'm a customer success manager at Validity, and I have been in the 4 years. I've been maintaining Salesforce CRM systems as an admin and also helped maintain Salesforce Marketing Cloud systems as well. Over the years, I've advised businesses on marketing strategies, business strategies, implementation strategies, migrations, and also improving their productivity, which is a key thing we're going to talk about today. I'm a certified Salesforce admin and one of the Answer community leaders. Firstly, just want to say Sactiville, thank you for this. Sactiville, unfortunately, will not be joining us for the beginning half of this. He's got some prior commitments, but he'll be joining halfway through, guys. So if you have any specific questions for Sactiville, save them for about halfway through it. So going along, you all know your great community leader, and that is Sactiville. He's got all his socials there, senior Salesforce developer and an MVP, and 17 times certified, and a 7 times Trailhead Ranger. One thing to note, this series is sponsored by Validity. If you guys would like, there is some free swag for you guys that we're going to send out after today. For that, I'm going to chuck into the chat the link to sign up for the swag. If you've already signed up in the previous events, you don't need to sign up again. But here is the link for the swag, free swag from Validity there. This week is all about the importance of productivity. So we talked about the last 3 weeks, different types of flows we can use for different types of business scenarios. And now we're going to sum it all up together about the importance of productivity. Some things about the group. Don't forget to sign up for this community group so you don't miss any coming up events. You'll be informed by email to join the group community button. There's also the chatter group, Twitter page, LinkedIn, and YouTube channels that you guys can all sign up to. The YouTube channel has a copy of all the recordings of all the sessions, as well as a copy of the previous ones we've just done in this Flow February series. Couple of things, get involved in the wider community. You know, you guys, it's the Ohana. So join any group that suits you across the Sydney group as well as Western Sydney. There is a Bella Vista admin group, we're the Bella Vista developer group. You've also got the Sydney marketing groups, developer group, non-for-profit, women in tech groups, and a whole bunch more. And the upcoming meeting after this is going to be the 4th of March, and that is when to code, config plus code. And they will be speaking there will be Nikanj Doshi. So feel free to sign up for that one as well. And share your love to the social channels with the following hashtags. So if you guys want to share some love, it's hashtag BVSFDG, Bella Vista Salesforce Developer Group. All right, so let's get cracking and straight into it. I'm going to stop sharing that presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and share another presentation. You guys all see that presentation now. You should all be able to see that. So this week, we're all going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to sum up a couple of things. The first one, we're going to recap everything we've done so far, last 3 weeks. If you missed it, we're going to do a quick recap of it. And we're going to bring that to a conclusion this week and talk about what is productivity and why is it important for our users to be productive? How can productivity go wrong? And also, what are some methods you can improve productivity? So those include some other solutions that other companies offer, as well as some native Salesforce functionality we're going to talk through as well. So firstly, let's look at our recap. Week 1, we talked about the difference between workflow, process builder, and flow. Couple key points from that week. Workflow rules are becoming a thing of the past. And when you go to consider which one of these you would like to use, some things you to consider are what triggers the process. Is it user interaction? Then you'd select the flow. Does a record change? Could be flow or process builder, depending on the complexity of the logic. Is it invoked by process builder? Both flow or process builder. On record delete, only flow can handle these scenarios. Is it a user accessing Lightning Community or Visual Force page? Only flow can handle these. Called by Apex, and again, only flow can be called by Apex. Another consideration we had was how complex is your business logic? And this will determine which one you'd use. You'd more tend to go, if it's multiple decisions, you go down the flow path. Basic logic with an action, more likely to go for process builder than a flow. Then we followed up that week with week 2, and that was all about opportunity management flows. We did a flow that was copy account team to opportunity team. Again, that was a screen flow launched from a custom action. We did create a renewal opportunity flow, so speeding up the productivity of users by automatically creating that renewal after a closed won opportunity. And also add user to opportunity team if they are assigned a task related to the opportunity. Again, speeding up the process, removing the fact that they need to be a part of the opportunity team manually. Week 3, that was last week. We went through some, what I would say the most exciting ones that I've done so far, the flows. Pretty extensive flow around cloning accounts and selected related objects using a screen. This screen, if you were there last week, you'll be able to see the screen allowed you to determine what type of related objects you want to clone, as well as special conditions around it. For example, open tasks or closed opportunities. You had those options there when you're doing it. All the recordings, by the way, I can see a question in there, are on the upcoming session play page. It's also on the YouTube channel, which is I displayed at the beginning, but we'll chuck some more information at the end. And finally, I also did one allocate account region, which would invoke metadata. So I was using metadata to store that region country table. So Australia would be APAC, London and England would be UK and I, right, or EMEA. So that's what we covered the last couple of weeks. And you can access all the recordings on the community group page. So now let's get into productivity. Why is this important and everything else? First thing we've got to look at is there's 3 inseparable principles when it comes to productivity. And when it comes to managing a Salesforce org or any CRM. And those 3 inseparable principles are adoption, data quality, and productivity. Now, without one or the other, they're not going to be able to work. Right, productivity can't occur without user adoption, and productivity also can't occur if you don't have a high quality of data. Adoption won't occur if you have a bad quality in your data, right? Users will be put off the fact of adopting a system that has bad data. You've also got a whole bunch of different things mixed together. So we're going to focus around productivity out of this, but we're also going to talk bits about how data quality can impact this. How adoption can impact this. One thing to note is 87% of salespeople say their companies require them to use a CRM system to track their activities. It was an interesting part of this, and in the for all statistics, by the way, we will have a link to the reference in the notes of this slide deck. So when this slide deck becomes available, you get access to the reference of where these statistics are coming from. But from studies done, that's quite a high number of salespeople that are indicating that their company requires them to use it, right? That means you are working for a company and they have a CRM. They enforce you, I should say, not force you. It should be something you want to do. Enforce you to use the CRM to track your activities, track your engagements with your customers, the sales process, and everything else involved. What was surprising was these same group of people answered that 78% of them admit that they only check the boxes, which means they're doing the very minimum things required to get by, whether that's filling in just required fields only, whether that's just filling in required fields with dummy data, which is even worse, and we talked about that a little bit. But this goes to show that of those group of people, there wasn't really excitement for the product. There's no excitement for this to use their CRM. They feel like there's some enforcement by their managers that they have to use it, not that they want to use it, where there's a key difference between having to use something and wanting to use something. For example, I don't have to use a Microsoft Outlook on desktop. Some of my colleagues use it on the Microsoft 365, but I want to use it on desktop because that's something I prefer. I like using it. I like the setup of it and everything else. That goes the same when it comes to CRM. You want your users to be in a position where they are comfortable using the CRM. Not only that, they don't feel like it's another mandatory task for them to do. It should just become part of every day. Simple as sending an email. That's part of every day. So, going on from here, why is productivity important? The first thing to look at is it enhances pipeline management and prioritization. Now, you can look at that term pipeline management and think, right, that's a sales term, but it's also a service term, right? You can use it from a service perspective as well, where it's your backlog of cases open. That's still a pipeline in retrospect. You want to make sure that's as effective as possible because your team can be actioning and moving on to the next task as quickly as possible. If they're not, and they're prioritizing, let's say in the sales example, they're prioritizing a $2,000 deal over a $50,000 deal because their pipeline management is off, then you're jeopardizing the revenue of your company. Increase engagement. So this will by boosting productivity, you're increasing the engagement your users have with your customers. The quicker they are to be able to input their data, manage their records, move to the next one, the more understanding they'll have about their customer and more time they can dedicate to actually talking to your customers. Whether it's a customer or a prospect, or again, if it's a support ticket, the quicker you go through those, the more time you'll spend with your customer. And that's the most important part, spending time with your customers. The next one is increasing conversion rates. It's very similar to if you look at, again, taking the sales and service, time to close, right? If a support ticket's open, the conversion rates you use there is time to closure. How long did it take for this case to close or this support ticket? Or how long or how many opportunities did your sales team convert? By being able to move faster, prioritize more efficiently, and manage your pipeline, backlog, whatever it may be, you're able to then dedicate more time to selling rather than admin. As a user, you don't want your team spending a lot of time manipulating data, inputting data, again, feeling like this is a tedious task. But at the same time, we want them to input that data so we can have a better understanding of our customers. So it's a fine line you need to find between how much is too much and building an effective method to ensure they're doing it quickly and efficiently. And in doing all this, the productivity of your users, building that enjoyment of putting the data in, it'll increase the quality of your data. If your users are going a lot faster at their work, yes, you may think, all right, people are moving a lot faster, inputting data a lot faster, it's more prone for error. That's true, but at the same time, if you're doing it with a method or an assistant program or something like that that's helping you out to achieve this efficiency, you're more likely to not make errors in your data, such as automations from flows, right? And we'll talk a bit about that later on. Some interesting insights here. 71% of C-level executives believe sales productivity is critical to achieving growth, right? So it's an interesting thing to note that this is such a high number of C-suite executives that believe productivity is critical to growth, yet there isn't as much of a focus on productivity, right? There isn't as much of a focus on the usability of the system in most cases. So if you have this high concentration and belief that productivity is critical to growth, then the first thing to look at is how can we improve it? Right? A lot of the times, improving it ends up becoming hindrance. A lot of the times, adding new fields onto the object, adding new processes, and everything else, which involve, let's say, additional task objects, records per opportunity, or anything like that, actually creates a hindrance to productivity. Sometimes all you need is to take a moment to stop and reflect on what is happening right now. What do you expect and need? And this goes back to a couple of other thought processes and other thoughts I've had and shared amongst the community, which is, what do you need for other parts of your systems? What do you need from a sale? What do you need to continue? What is the bare minimum? Then start from there. Next aspect to look at is 17% of a salesperson's day is entering data. Now, this one in particular, when I was looking into it and researching it, shocked me quite a bit. Right? I understand that it is a tedious task, and I have managed companies that have made it a tedious task for users, and you do your best to improve that. But putting a number against it and having a look at it, 17% of a salesperson's day is entering data. If you look at an 8-hour day in comparison, which is, that's about 400 minutes, if my maths is correct, divide that by 10%, and you get about 40 minutes per day, and that's up, if not more. All right. If someone knows the good maths for that, please chuck it in the chat. My maths is a bit dodgy. But looking at this one, it goes to show that, as much it is a part of life now for salespeople, for service people, for any company really, data entry is a way of life. If it's a way of life, then you need to make sure you focus on that productivity. You need to make sure it's done correctly. It's done in an efficient manner. Another interesting insight is companies that use technology effectively were 57% more effective at sales training and development. Now, this can apply to all sorts of training and development. If you understand the technology you have available for not only yourself, but for your wider team and company, and you are using it in a way that it doesn't become a hindrance, it doesn't become a roadblock, then obvious benefits are going to come from that. It's going to be easier to train people that are new. If you've built your Salesforce in a way that it's easy to enter data, you have a whole bunch of flows, automations, and other things in place that speed up different processes of your business, then your end user is going to have a training time. Let's say, for example, average training time is about 40 hours, for example. You're probably going to end up training them for about, maybe 1-2 hours. Here's how to create an opportunity. Here's how to manage it. And the rest is done for you. So it all depends on how you're managing your tech stack. And also, in particular, when we're talking about this, how you're managing your Salesforce. You can work for a company. They give you a requirement. We want to be able to capture the geolocation of every customer that enters. Some customers aren't willing to put that in. Good way around that is you could set a default value on that field, right? And that default value is not given, not provided. In that case, and you train your users and you tell them, right, whenever you don't get the information from your customer, just leave it blank, click save, and it will default the value automatically. That's speeding up the use of your system. It's also making the user's life a lot easier. They don't have to worry about that field if they don't have the information. Or you don't get the issues with data quality where this ties into someone just putting in XYZ in there, right, just for the sake of putting it in. So we talked about why is it important. I'm going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions in regarding to why productivity is important to a business before I move on to how it can all go wrong. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to chuck in the chat if you have any questions around why productivity is important to a business, and also why you think it's important to yourselves. All right, as a developer and admin, why do you think that's important if your users are productive? Feel free to chuck them in the chat as we go along. All right, so if any questions come in, I'm going to read them out. Otherwise, I'm going to power through, keep going on. So how can this all go wrong? There are many points where this can go wrong, right? If we look at that diagram at the beginning, the 3 different points, there's 2 key parts where productivity goes wrong already. Adoption, data quality. All right, let's break that down even further. First one is lack of training. If your users don't understand how to use the system they have been given access to, then they're going to take their time. They're not going to understand how to navigate Salesforce correctly, whatever the system may be, and find what they need to. In most cases, you may find that they might revert back to traditional methods like pen and paper, email, rather than capturing the data you need for your business to thrive and grow in your CRM. So that lack of training is a massive hindrance. And that's why going back to it ties into making it useful, making it easy to use that technology, speeds up that training. Lack of adoption. We talked about this before, right? So we've got a couple of questions coming in, and so I'm going to pause now to have that. So one of the points is we need to have a balance, right? Too much validation for data quality also is a problem. I guess, for example, sales reps will fill out a form, too many required fields, information, etc. Exactly. That's exactly the point we're trying to make here, right? If you have too many required fields, too many validation rules, and there is such thing as too many, it's going to cause havoc for your processes, for your users. It's going to become a chore rather than an activity. All right. And the best way to establish what is key validation rules, what are necessary versus not necessary, find out of that object what fields are your necessities, right? What need to be in specific values. Then build around that. Let's say, for example, I have my contact record. On my contact object, I may have 80 fields. Now, of those 80 fields, only 10 of them are business critical values. And those 10 may include things like first name, last name, source, account name, which is mandatory, right? And then you look into email address, phone number. Say we need the phone number to be in a +614 format, no spaces. Put a validation rule around that. Put a validation rule around all these fields that are required. And everything else can stay as optional. Don't enforce them because they're not business critical. Another point here is we can accomplish more in less time and more effectively. Exactly. And that's the whole point. You want to accomplish more in less time, more effectively. Right? If you're spending too much time, and again, it goes back to lack of training. If your users don't know how to use Salesforce and it's their first time they've ever used it, it's pretty daunting for a user. You look at Salesforce. All of us on the call are all seasoned Salesforce veterans, right? We've all been in there. We know. If I was to tell you how do you go to create an account, everyone would know how to do that. Or what is an account? Everyone would know the answer to that. But for a brand new person who's never seen it before, it's a bit difficult. We don't train them properly or give them no training, then they're going to struggle. They're probably going to spend 1 hour, 2 hours trying to do it by themselves, hit issues, then contact someone else who's then impeding someone else's productivity. Train them properly, then you can be able to get them moving quicker. So lack of adoption, we said, was one of them, and that's key. Obviously, CRMs are there to enhance your productivity, to enhance your understanding of your customer, right? To bring everything into one place. Now, if your users aren't going to adopt it, because let's say they're, for example, used to using Excel, then you're going to have an issue with their productivity because they're going to enter data into Excel, their old, robust, slow way of doing it. And you're still going to have to upload that data eventually to align it. So make sure you encourage the adoption. All right, there are some drastic measures you can take, which is cutting off services that they used to use and forcing them to use it. But that's a last resort. Another one, lack of automation. This whole series has been about flows. Flows is an automation tool, right? So is Process Builder. It's making life easier. If you don't have those automations in place, like I said in the examples I've given with the flows, building a renewal opportunity automatically, then in that scenario, one of two things can happen. Salesperson forgets to do it or doesn't want to do it because it's too much time to build a whole new opportunity record, or then they just fill in dummy data that's incorrect, doesn't align to the business because they just want it over and done with, right? And that impedes their productivity. That impedes your analytics. That impedes everything. So automation is your friend. Make sure you build upon that. Look into it. But at the same time, don't build too much that it conflicts with each other. Another key point here is no executive enforcement. Now, we saw on the previous slide that 71% C-level executives believe that productivity is tied directly to sales growth. Although they believe that, there is a lack of executive enforcement of adoption, of improving productivity, as there are other moving goals as well in the business. You know, you've got your sales targets, your service targets, you've got your marketing, and all sorts of other things. But it's all about making awareness and driving the importance and awareness of this, the information of that to your executives. Making sure they understand enough to be able to say, right, let's do something about it. And not just leave it. One key point we've been alluding to the whole time, which is data admin time is greater than the selling time. It takes longer for a user to put time in to putting in data than it does to sell or to close cases or to anything. Number one thing for a business, for it to grow and to continue, is sales, right? Revenue or support or service, right? For that to occur, you need to be spending time doing that, whether it's sales or service or whatever it may be. So if your users are getting bogged down, and great point from one of the people before was not too much validation rules, or they're getting bogged down, too many different required aspects, right? Then they're not going to be able to do their actual day-to-day job. And you'll see that 17% of your day being dedicated to admin will increase. Poor data quality. And this is a big one. A lot of people make the mistake of not tying the importance of data quality together with productivity. Right? I've talked in previous times about the importance of data quality with the marketing process and things. But now, when you look at it, data quality is the core to everything. If your data quality isn't up to scratch, then your users are going to struggle to do their job. If I'm actively working as a salesperson, I've got an inbound for a particular customer. Let's say the customer is Salesforce Community Group Bella Vista. I've got an inbound, I need to prospect them. But I'm going to prospect them for the next webinar. Because I had poor data quality, that inbound created a duplicate record. The duplicate record, what I didn't see there was on the original record, they had already registered for this webinar, therefore causing customer unsatisfaction, therefore impacting your productivity. I've just wasted time calling, trying to contact that person. Right? That's all my productivity out the window. I could have spent that on an actual actionable lead or an actual actionable support ticket. If there are duplicate support tickets coming in, I look at it, right, go start working on a solution, got a response back to the customer. Customer sends back a response saying, hey, this has actually already been answered on, and gives you a link to the actual case. The perception you give your customers are important, as well as the time you're spending. You don't want to double up on efforts, which is impeding your productivity. Now, we've talked about all this. Before I actually move on to this slide, I'm going to pause on this slide here. And I'm going to ask you guys if you have any questions so far on productivity. Because the next slide is we're going to talk about tools that can help you for this and improve your productivity. So the first one, why is it so important we've talked about? Now we've talked about how productivity can go wrong. Does anyone want to chuck in any thoughts, questions about these things that we can answer now before we go to talk about what are the things you can put in place to improve the productivity of your team and your users? I'll give you guys 2 minutes while you're doing that. If anyone has the answer to how much of your 8-hour day 17% is, how many minutes all that is, can you also chuck that in the chat as well? It'd be good to know that. Give you guys 1 more minute to chuck some questions in. I know it may take a while to type it up. Stick it in the chat as quickly as you can, and we'll go into this. So far, hopefully this is, you guys are seeing the benefit of this. You're seeing the importance of productivity for a business. 83 minutes is one person, 81.6 minutes is another answer for that 17% of an 8-hour day. Okay. So it goes to show you how important that 17% is. Right? If let's say I'll say roughly in between 81 and 83 minutes. If your users are spending 81 to 83 minutes a day, which is about an hour and 20 minutes on inputting data, when you look at it for a 5-day work week, that's about 5 hours, 6 hours. If you do an hour and 20 minutes by 5. All right, it's over 6 hours. That is a massive impact to your business. Whether you're a service business, sales business, not for profit, whatever it may be, that time you can never get back. And in some cases, it's a lot longer, right? Because companies haven't addressed their data quality issues. Companies haven't addressed their adoption or their productivity issues. Okay, cool. So we don't have any questions, so I'm going to move on here. You can see we're moving a bit quick at this pace at the moment. But the first thing we're going to talk about, and I haven't got a slide for this, so I'm going to just talk on this slide here, is flows. All right, flows, process builder, and some of you guys touched it on before, validation rules. Flows and process builder are going to be your friends when it comes to improving productivity. They can, as we saw, automate the creation of records, auto-fill fields in, which is important. So especially on screen flows, instead of having the standard new button that has all these fields in there, declutter that for your user. Create a screen flow that's a new record. Only have the required fields on there, and then default some values accordingly. Right? Or you've got the clone options, so users don't have to create records manually. If they have an account or a contact or a lead that's very similar to the one they've previously engaged with, have the clone button. Right? The clone flow we talked about. Clone records and related ones, only ones you want. So open opportunities you don't want, closed opportunities. And have key fields on that screen flow, like I showed last time. Process Builder can be used for the same thing, for automating the update of records. Validation rules, are great to enforce fields that are required. They're also great to enforce formats that are required. But enforcing formats isn't fixing the existing data. So we talked about flows. They're going to be your friends, right? Hopefully, a lot of you guys are already using flows in your orgs, right? If not, it's something to start considering. Process builder, and we talked about validation rules. Now let's talk about offerings from other companies that can help improve these things. And the first one here is, we're going to look at, if my screen changes, there you go, data remediation tools. In particular, this one is by Validity, right? And this is demand tools. And I can see we've got some questions here. Yes, there's a good point in the chat. Validation rules can actually cause issues if not tested properly. One thing to note on that before I continue on this is validation rules, although the syntax passes, make sure you test it thoroughly, right? The syntax may pass, but it may not achieve what you want it to achieve. Going on, so data remediation tools. So we talked about a key issue is data quality. In particular, you want duplicates is a key issue, standardization, getting data into the right format. And that's where tools like this can come into play, right? You've got demand tools by Validity where it deduplicates any custom or standard objects with extensive matching logic on automation, standardizes records, helps with lead conversion, a whole bunch of other things as well, right? You've got Blocker to stop duplicates on the way in. And you've got Bright Verify. Bright Verify helps you validate email addresses, whether it's on point of capture, inside your Salesforce system, or you can do a bulk wash as well. Validating email addresses is making sure that the capturing of the data quality is correct, right? You don't want that data quality to be poor. Let's say instead of typing Andrew Fragias at validity.com or at gmail.com, I typed in Andrew Fragias 12 at validity.com. But my original record had Andrew Fragias at gmail.com. Therefore, when you go to match using email address, you won't find a match. Create a duplicate record. So these are some of the tools to look into as well. Now, the one I'm going to show you next, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of one, and it's called Grid Buddy Cloud. Give me 1 second here, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So Grid Buddy Cloud is an effective way to boost your user productivity. And the way it does it is you build a grid-like view of any custom or standard object. Now, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to chuck them in the chat about anything we talked about or anything new we're talking about. So I have this grid-like view, and it's built on the opportunity object. I could have built it on a custom object or anything else. Almost looks like an Excel, right? You guys can see the similarities with Excel or a list view. When you go to compare it to a list view, the differences are list view, you have inline editing for only some fields given it's a specific record type, right? Same record type if you want to do it in bulk. Whereas this doesn't have that limitation to it. You can have any fields in here, edit any fields, and doesn't matter what record type it is. You also have, as you can see right here, conditional formatting. So this is highlighting to me these records, the close dates in the past. I need to update them, right? And let's say I'm a salesperson. I need these 3 records updated, close date in the future. I can click mass update. I'll go across to the close date. And in bulk, I'll set that to, let's say, March 25th. And I'll apply it to the selected records. And it's as easy as that. Done 3 records very quickly. Not only do you have the fields from the opportunity and the details from the opportunity, or whatever object it is, but you have the related and indirectly related records as well. Now, if you guys need me to zoom in, please let me know and I'll zoom in. And also, yeah, I think we've got a message here. Can you put the last slide of 4 tools? Yeah, the last slide of 4 tools, we'll put them up at the end as well for you guys to have a look. Then going into this, the contact object, we know opportunities don't directly relate to a contact. They relate either directly or indirectly. So you can build that relationship and have that data here. I've got all my contacts that relate to the account related to the opportunity. I can, again, inline edit if I need to, making my job as a user a lot quicker. Say this one's come in public relations. Oh, right. So I know that this user here, let's say, is a solution architect, if I've spelled that right. Right. And apply all these updates across different records in the one go. I can create new ones and do it all here. Building upon this, if we wanted to take this and put it anywhere in Salesforce, I can take these grid-like views and embed them on any Lightning pages as well. A lot of people tend to take these grid-like views and embed them on a record and replacing the related list so that you have this editable related list essentially. If we talk about what this can also do, and it builds out these tabbed-like views. So it has different grids on different tabs. If I'm managing my leads first, before I move on to the pipeline, before I move on to the customer management, I want to manage my leads. Right, I say, right, this lead, I want to create a task against it. In progress, priority is high. My subject is, it's a call, right? And the due date is, we'll put for tomorrow. You can go ahead and do that task. Before I click save though, I wanted to also update my opportunity. Same grid we looked at before. Right, this time I can see all these opportunities here in red, right? The close date, I want to push all of those close dates out into the future. So I'm going to change all these close dates to March 25th. And I notice, if you can see here, all the next steps are empty. So what I'm going to do is call customer, because they're all in the same stage, let's say. I'll apply this to all records. It's easy as that. I've gone and updated 50 records in one go. There's a question in the chat here. Does this support multiple record types in one list, e.g. list view inline, I guess can be used if we filter for specific record type, not 100% so. Yes, it does. Doesn't matter what record type I'm using right now. Doesn't matter what field you're using. It can support that all in the one go. So these are using multiple record types right now, and I'm able to apply these updates accordingly. And that's why you can hear a bit of excitement in my voice, right? I've been a long time admin, and that same question has come up so many times. Why can't we update multiple record types in the one view? Why do we have to have all these different filters and stuff like that? This here makes it easy, right? It does it all in the one go. You do multiple record types, and don't forget, you've got those related objects here, right? You can add them in. An additional functionality, and we're looking at Customer 360. This is a tab I've named it, right? I've named it Customer 360. Additional functionality that GridBuddy Cloud offers is if you have multiple Salesforce orgs, I can pull data relating to it. So this is the APAC demo org, for example. And I want to pull from the SF to SF demo org contacts relating to that account. I can pull those contacts in here. These contacts exist in a different org. I'm able to mass update and create new records and manipulate that data and have a full view of my customer, regardless if you have them in multiple orgs. Right? You can have any customer standard object and field pulled in from those orgs and updating them. So I know this one has been a little bit shorter than my talking on the last 3 weeks, but does anyone have any other questions they want to add on before finally I chuck over to Sactiville to do the certification voucher ones, who wins those certification vouchers? But before then, do you guys have any questions, any insights you want to provide about this and what we've gone through, the importance of productivity? One thing to note, I think someone mentioned before, can we have a look at the 4 products that we mentioned on the slide? All the slide deck, the recording and everything will be added to the community group page. So you guys will have access to all of this, be able to see all of this. And if you guys have any questions that maybe you're not comfortable asking in front of everyone, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, right? Add me. My name's Andrew Fragias, simple as my display name. And you can add me on LinkedIn, ask away any questions. So Sactiville, are you there, mate?
Yes, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So I think if people come up with questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll hand back to you and it's all yours.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you for all your support to the community with sharing last 4 weeks. It's really amazing. And also your like lot of interactive session, like lot of interactive conversation for last 4 weeks. You shared about the flow series, the concept, and lot of informative, lot of use cases you shared. It's really appreciated, man.
No worries, I really had a lot of fun with you guys, and I really appreciate the offer you gave for me to come and talk with you. We've got a couple questions I could see. Are these on App Exchange owned by Validity? Some of them are on the App Exchange, and some of them are from the Validity website. So you can go to validity.com and you'll be able to see these products there as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks once again for the Validity INC team for supporting to the Trailblazer community group. Yeah, it's really appreciated. Yeah. Give me a moment. I will took the name list from the form. So let me share my screen. I think this is the interesting part finally. So I hope you can see my screen, right? Andrew, can you please confirm?
I was on mute. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, fine. So I have that name list from that form, and let me take those list and I will add it over here. So shuffling it. Okay. So totally I have like 150 members in this list. 155. Okay, let me start. Actually, I am planning to give the 4 certification voucher. All the very best, guys. The first one, let's see who is the lucky. The lucky one get the $200 and $400 voucher, the certification voucher. It goes to Ajinkya. Congratulations, Ajinkya. Let me go to the second one. This time Mac Yagi. Let me go to the third one. This time the Madhavi. Congratulations. The final one. It's Ajay Patel. Congratulations all the 4 winners. Please reach out to me in the social channel. Go to the Trailblazer community group. Let me show you where you can navigate. Just to go to the Trailblazer community groups, and from the Bella Vista developer group, you can see the contact us button. Just to click it and then send that message. I will pass it to the voucher. And also we have that upcoming session for when to code, config and config code. So this is the link for the next week, the March 4, the same 5 p.m. the Sydney time. We are conducting there's another one more session with Nikunjan Joshi will be sharing with us about when to code, click and code plus click. So it's I think an interesting session. So try to join. So that's it from my side. Thanks everyone for joining the session. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining the last 4 weeks. It's been a pleasure sharing my knowledge, and hopefully I'll be able to speak again at this community group. You guys are all lovely.